Back to work, got up on Monday morning, and there it was. Glory hole.
That's Jerry Jones. But you already knew that. What you might not know is that people like Jerry are kind of killing sports. Fair warning, this is a heavy one. I know I make a lot of dumb videos on this channel, but this one's kind of important because it signals something that could lead to the end of sports as we know it. Today we're talking about owners, and I promise by the end of this, you'll be upset. God knows I am. This is so much bigger than football. And believe me, we're going to cover the worst of the worst owners, but I need you to understand that this is not just an individual issue. The entire system is broken. Before I talk about the systemic issues, let's talk about the really bad ones, because there are some real wet trash bags among the dumpster that is the ultra wealthy. So, shall we? Oh, you thought Dan Snyder was bad? You're right, he sucks. But I think you'll find there's guys that are really giving him competition for the worst owners in history. Let's start with Jerry, but I can't talk about him here.
Hello, old friend.
We all knew Jerry was bad, but I didn't know he was this bad. Yeah, he lets people tour the training facility and treats players like property, but he's just old school, right? Wait, what is this? Oh my God. Yeah, he's that old school. Not a good look at all. It's okay though, right? Surely he's grown. That was in the 50s, right? Oh my God. It never ends. I can't defend that, and I hope you're not. Jerry Jones is not a good person. Racism is a very complex topic, and that's not the point of this video, but boy, a lot of these owners don't seem like quality people. Like when Jerry yelled at a radio host for pressing him about the goddamn Cowboys and how terrible they are.
Or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
He's the kind of person that would keep a guy on the payroll who sneaks into the Cowboys cheerleaders' locker room and takes pictures of them, and that same guy took under the skirt pictures of his own daughter. And it's really not worth telling you that, speaking of daughters, Jerry hid one of his own, and then when she tried to get into his life, he hit her with a countersuit. Not because she lied, but because she broke an NDA. Yeah, it's not worth telling you any of that, right? Jerry's a great guy. Roll Tide.
What we want to try to see is the outcomes, right? We want to see black head coaches in the NFL and coaches of people of color and eventually gender.
Careful what you say, Roger. Jerry might get you fired. And before I fully tear into these guys, I just want to give a quick spotlight to the Packers, who don't have a singular owner and are a non-profit organization. Go Pack Go, they're the only one of these guys that don't make me sick to my stomach. He held a mandatory anti-drunk driving meeting, which I don't like drunk driving, but he used it to berate an employee and held the meeting inside State Farm Stadium, where the employee, Ron Minigar, had to publicly apologize in front of the entire staff on the Jumbotron, and Michael Bidwill asked him questions like, what was it like wearing an orange jumpsuit? I mean, come on, HUNNABALL, you really gonna hold him to that? No, but I'll hold him to making two separate pregnant employees cry on different occasions just because they wanted time off. Same goes for a quote-unquote racially charged rant at a black employee. Don't worry though, he's not racist. He hired Steve Wilkes and fired him after one season. And yes, that was the Josh Rosen year. What else do I got? He made female employees take different staircases than the players and even set up their cubicles to avoid intergender contact. Employees reportedly thought they would be fired for misspelling his name. Real mature guy we're dealing with here. Mr. Well-Adjusted. Oh no, don't fire me too. One time, an employee asked for paid sick leave because they had jury duty, and Michael Bidwill yelled at them for even asking, and then suspended them without pay. And if you want the cherry on top, he dunked a box of tissues on their desk saying, "There you go, cry." A lot of what I just said is alleged, but ESPN conducted an interview with over 36 employees and former employees, and the overwhelming majority said that it was a hostile work environment and that they were terrified of what Michael Bidwill could do. Also, in case you forgot, he's the one that wrote in Kyler Murray's contract that he has to study film for a certain amount of time, embarrassing him in front of the whole media and sports world. What if I told you he's also cheap as hell? Yeah, like Scrooge McDuck, but with bad hair dye. The Cardinals got horrible scores on the player grades that the NFLPA send out. The locker room is the size of a high school, and they even have rookies go to the alternate locker room because there's not room in the first one. The gym looks like a 24-hour fitness. They treat families like hell. I'm sweating. This is so difficult. It's also like 95 degrees in this room I'm in, much like the Arizona Cardinals locker room. And after all I just said, he still made the Arizona Sports Hall of Fame. The losingest franchise in NFL history. Yeah, give yourself a pat on the back, Mike. You're doing awesome. Everybody loves you. I can't even talk about this sicko anymore. Let's move on to Dave Tepper. Dave Tepper, since he bought the team in 2018, he's had 7 different active head coaches, which is just horrible. He played a fundamental role in the Panthers trading their soul for the #1 pick. He also poured a beer on a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, which is harsh, especially to a Jags fan. They have so little. He hired spies in the form of coaches, that way he could get direct intel of what's going on. Yeah, he doesn't have trust issues. What are you talking about? He knocked off a fan's hat in a bar for calling him out, which I get is annoying, but like, you're kind of the richest owner in the NFL? I think you can handle a little bit of hate. And not like it wasn't well deserved, by the way. He also was allegedly all in on Deshaun Watson during that whole thing, so nice. He's also weirdly cheap, go figure. He backed out of a $100 million practice facility mid-production, and guess who paid for that? Don't worry, I'll come back to that point. He was a year delinquent in paying off-duty police officers who helped direct traffic at Panthers games. Again, he's worth $27 billion, and he couldn't pay some cops? And despite his notorious, horrible ownership, when you Google his name, stock picks come up. Not a football guy. Woody Johnson. He makes the other 2 guys look like real class acts. Oh my God.
I mean, Humpty Dumpty was pushed now by Woody.
What?
Woody Johnson's treatment of Robert Saleh alone is enough to get him on this video.
Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, has been fired. I'll get you more details as they come in.
Robert Saleh has been fired.
Are you serious?
When Robert Saleh hired Mike LaFleur, Woody Johnson made him fire him. Woody also tore down Saleh's all gas, no brakes mantra, and when the Jets lost to the Vikings, Woody decided to step in and fire Robert Saleh mid-season in the coldest way possible. And we all saw how that went down. No one thought that was a good move. He also didn't trade for Jerry Jeudy because his Madden rating wasn't high enough, and that wasn't the only time. He didn't want to sign free agent John Simpson because his Madden, wait for it, awareness rating wasn't good enough. If you've ever played Madden, you know that the awareness rating is about as useful as a match in the Pacific Ocean. He asks his son Brick, yes, Brick, for advice on signings regularly. Brick is 17, by the way. His wife and sons are also really rude and mean to players in the locker room. Great, so now I don't like Brick. I guess he's part of this video too now. Shoo! Brick brings his friends into locker rooms so he can show them off. When Jeff Ulbrich won his first game as interim head coach after Woody Johnson prematurely fired Robert Saleh, he was supposed to get the game ball. That's NFL tradition. Brick grabbed another ball, went into the locker room, and then said fuck too many times and gave it to Garrett Wilson. And it was described as the most awkward situation these players have ever been in. But maybe Woody's nice to the players. Maybe it's just his dick son. Oh, he told Mike White that he fucking sucked. Come on. Not Mike White. Come on, dude. He insisted on Aaron Rodgers returning to practice early in 2023, even though Rodgers wasn't even close to ready, and Rodgers was against it because he knew someone would get cut. And guess what? Fullback Nick Bodden did, in fact, get cut. Sweet. Rodgers had no chance of playing. It was just for show. And that's a big theme with Woody's ownership practices. He traded pick 256 instead of 257, which the Jets both had, just so he could select Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah. That's the kind of guy we're working with here. Not smart at all.
I don't get worried. But yeah, quarterback's always always something you look at.
He also stands outside of the GM's office in the war room during the draft, giving the old, "Can you believe they picked him? Get a load of this guy. He's probably going to suck." You hired him, Woody. He's also a huge backer of the Trump administration and was actually Trump's London liaison and UK ambassador for the United States during Trump's first term. And now Trump doesn't even want him back. And guess what? When Woody was gone, the Jets' culture and team got considerably better.
Couldn't handle Buzz cutting in on your playtime, could you, Woody?
The Jets also have the longest playoff drought in North American sports. Bill Belichick left after 1 day, and in the most recent NFLPA survey, he got a resounding F for ownership. When asked about it, he called the entire survey, quote, totally bogus. We are not dealing with a self-aware person here. After all I just said, this guy thinks he's a good owner. And is he a good person at least? Maybe all this is just football related. Oh no! And look, nothing was proven, but I fear the zebra's already shown his stripes. And then there's Dan Snyder, an owner so bad I can't even fit everything he did into this video. Dan Snyder was awful, and I'm not going to say he wasn't. But when Dan Snyder got called out for everything, instead of fighting it, he said, "If you take me down, I'm going to expose all of you for what you do." And I fear he was right. Dan Snyder was right. Damn it. Of course there are more horror stories, but I'm going to stop there because I have another question for you. Should owners be accountable for team success? Like, is that fair? Is it fair that the Chiefs win Super Bowls even though Clark Hunt is notoriously cheap? Is it fair that Stephen Ross got a clean sweep on the player grades and the Dolphins missed the playoffs? I don't know, man. What makes a good owner? Some think it's morals and character. Others think it's the amount of investment. And most people just think it's letting the people who you hired do their job. Whichever standard of owner you prefer is totally fine. At least we can all agree there are some good owners, right? Wait a minute. None of them pay taxes? Oh no. I'm gonna go get a towel, okay? I'll be right back. What if I told you that owners completely rigged a system that they built? We're gonna be talking about taxes. I know taxes aren't the most thrilling topic, so to offset that, here's some funny bear moments while I talk about how owners are screwing us over. Picture this. A concessions worker makes ends meet working at the Staples Center. Yeah, I'm still mad. Let's say they work Uber on the side, and when they go to file their taxes, they pay 14% of a $44,000 income. Move to the court, where LeBron James, the star of the show, LeBron James is a basketball player. He plays for the Lakers. LeBron makes over $100 million a year between salary and endorsements. Hefty sum, and he paid a hefty tax. 35.9% of his salary went right back to Uncle Sam, about $44 million. Then we go up to the owner's box, where Steve Ballmer, current Clippers owner, Lord knows I could have talked about the guy that owned the Clippers before him, Ballmer reportedly took home a staggering $656 million in 2018. Guess how much he paid in taxes? A whopping $78 million. That's a lot, but it's only 12% of his total income. And out of the three I discussed, he paid the lowest percentage, lower than LeBron and lower than Adelaide Avila, the concessions employee from earlier. Oh yeah, that's a problem. Bill Veeck is a name I didn't know until yesterday, and man, I long for that time. He was the owner of the then Cleveland Indians. Great guy. Who then purchased the Chicago White Sox. In the 1930s, Veeck argued for teams to be able to write off player salaries as a deductible business expense. Fair enough, players only got paid like $1 a game anyways, but Veeck wanted more. So he figured out a way to double dip between team sales. Not only are the salaries being written off, but they also qualify as depreciating assets when the team switches hands. He even went on record to say, "We play the Star-Spangled Banner before every game. You want us to pay income taxes too?" Like I said, great guy. This precedent set a monstrosity in the tax world and caused a snowball effect as sports teams became more and more valuable. When a team switched hands, they could write off huge portions of these contracts, enough to offset basically all income made from the sports team. Stay with me here. This concept is called amortization, whatever. And it's important because it's how businesses can gradually write off the cost of an asset, specifically non-human assets. But that's not how sports work. The assets increase in value. right? Well, that depends on who you ask. If you ask most people, they'd say yes. But if you ask former president and part owner of the Texas Rangers, George Bush, and all the other owners, they'd disagree with you. They'd say, meh, owning a team is so hard and it costs so much money and we don't have the money. Teams are able to write off so much money, sometimes 90 to even 100% of the total team costs, and deduct it from owner taxes. Are you confused yet? Because I was too. In fact, I think I still am. So let's break it down in simpler terms. And for this whole bit, I'm referencing an article from the publisher ProPublica, who did a way better job explaining it than I did. So I'm linking that in the bio too. But here's an example. Imagine this. You buy a team for $2 billion. Because amortization, you can claim usually 90% of that purchase price as tax deductible since the team is a depreciating asset. Yeah, totally. Under that tax code, you can break that 90%, $1.8 billion as tax deductible and break that off into 15 years, totaling at $120 million each year as off-the-top tax deductions. Hey, get off your phone, man. I'm almost done. I swear, this is important. Say you make $200 million in a season. You'd normally owe 40%, $80 million. But since you're smart and deduct the $120 million, you only owe 35. Break that over 15 years, and you've saved $650 million on the federal government. And I don't think they have a fourth quarter comeback in mind. In the simplest terms, when an owner buys a team, they're able to write off the entire purchase price and make it look like the franchise is losing money each year, when it obviously isn't. Dave Tepper, remember him? Yeah, he amortizes $140 million a year and claims that the Panthers are losing money. Losing games? Definitely. But I don't know about losing money. When Tepper bought the team in 2017, we, along with the IRS, could see that the Panthers are not a losing business. And in the NFL, it's even dumber because they get a national revenue stream on top of that. Some might argue that owners take more risk than the players, who are paid out in a virtually guaranteed salary. Sure, but once again, these teams only increase in value. Others might say that eventually those taxes have to be paid back. And yes, they do. But after a 15-year break of writing it off, where the money could have easily been invested. And if the owner dies while taking this loan out, the amortization cost then gets renewed once the team switches hands, even if that's to its heirs. There's more than that, but that's just the basics of why buying a team is a crazy tax write-off for most of these owners. Let's get to the real frustrating stuff. Stadiums. Psst,
I see dead people.
Like I said, this video goes a lot deeper than I would have hoped, and this part might just be the worst. Yeah, I'm not kidding around anymore. I'm actually getting kind of upset with this part because this is outrageous stuff. And this one's hard because I really do appreciate the architecture and just the allure of a new stadium. I love that CenturyLink Field has acoustics where you can hear the fans louder. I love that Hard Rock Stadium has special shade for the home team and then puts the opposing team in direct sunlight. That's all cool stuff, but there's a cost, and it doesn't come out of the owner's pockets. In order to build a sports stadium, you need money. You could pay for it out of pocket, but that's for chumps. Why not get the city to pay for it? Better yet, see if you can avoid taxes on that money while you're at it. Well, you're in luck. There's actually a bunch of money tied up in public bonds, and they're tax-free. But you need to pass the private use test because the government would never openly pay for a stadium from public funds, especially if it's only going to hold one team and serve one purpose. But that's the beauty of it. You can just lie. Cities pay off these bonds with hotel taxes, sales taxes, concert revenue, basically any kind of expense that has nothing to do with the sports team. This is called the 10% loophole, and it destroys cities. Money that was designated for schools, roads, hospitals, and anything in between is now going towards this shiny new state-of-the-art stadium. If the city doesn't want to pay, the team just leaves. Look at the Rams, Chargers, Supersonics, Raiders, A's. Hell, even the Bills threatened to move to Austin if they couldn't get the city of Buffalo to pay for a new stadium. I don't know how much you know about Buffalo, but I don't think that city's equipped to pay for a $1.1 billion stadium. But, I could be wrong. Let's break some tables. But owners don't care. They'll argue that the stadium brings more foot traffic and strengthens the city economy. But Basically, any economist out there will tell you that this isn't even close to how it works. This is my favorite part. These pro stadium defenders are so diluted that they use the primetime flyover, that shows the whole city, as a reference point to how it can give economic strength to the city. So people on TV can be like, oh my God. That place has roads and buildings. Man, I gotta get down there. I'll tell you. Yeah, that's their argument. Like, what are we talking about? And like I said, I get that stadiums are cool and whatnot, but what's the cost? We're picking between cup holders and school buses. I mean, what's the point of a shiny new stadium if you're hitting 30 potholes on the way over? So if you're following, most owners are terrible people who avoid almost all taxes and make the cities pay for their own stadiums with public funds. Yeah, horrible human beings we're working with here. I asked ChatGPT if there are any good owners. It kind of said, define good, And I understand that I may come off like a naive kid who just discovered that the world runs on money, but there's a line, right? There's gotta be a line somewhere, right? I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm boycotting the NFL or boycotting sports. Hell, I have this YouTube channel, but I hope it's become clear that these owners are getting away with at this point. I have no intention of making a video this serious ever again. It's not fun, and it's not the kind of thing that gets views. No one likes criticizing the institution. We'd rather do draft analyses. I get that. If you ever share one of my videos, make it this one. And even if you don't share my video, share what I said. Because awareness and education is the first step to change, and it feels like such an uphill battle right now. But it feels like if we can just talk about it and let owners know that we can't let them get away with this, things might change and lives will get so much better, not just for sports fans, but for the entire nation. We're losing out on so many tax dollars because the rules are broken. I'm sick and tired of these owners and leagues taking advantage of our passion and love for the game. Crazy ticket prices, $100 jerseys, and that's not even what I'm talking about here. I'm not a socialist, but I am saying that we need some kind of regulation, some fairness. This is crazy. I'm sick and tired of these fat cat bastards taking advantage of our passion and love for the game. Fuck Jerry Jones, and fuck every owner I talked about in this video. Change needs to happen. Sports are beautiful. Don't let them take them away from us. Chicken Jockey.